بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين وصلى الله وسلم وبارك على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. Hadith 105 from رياض الصالحين عن ابن مسعود رضي الله عنه قال قال النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم الجنة أقرب إلى أحدكم من شراك نعله والنار مثل ذلك. In this hadith, the Holy Prophet ﷺ said that paradise is closer to you or any one of you than the shoelace of one's sandal. And the fire is just like that. Which is really interesting because even Jahannam is actually not an Arabic word. It's a Farsi word from Gahannam. लफ्ज़ अगरचे कुरान में आया है लेकिन जहन्नम अरबी का लफ्ज़ नहीं है, फारसी का लफ्ज़ है. And it's mustadraj fil kalam, meaning the Arab, they took this word and they adopted it. This has happened in many different languages and cultures. हम ऐसा करते हैं. And so it was Jahannam. Now there are different opinions. What I'm about to say, ये जो मैं कह रहा हूँ, इसका ये हरगिज़ मकसद नहीं है कि ये एक मुत्तफ़क़ुन अलैहि बात है या इसके ऊपर कोई इजमा है. नहीं, ये उलमा का कौल, यानी उलमा के अक़वालों में से कौल है. जो इजमा वाली बात है, जिसके ऊपर इजमा उम्मत है और इसमें कोई शक नहीं है, वो है कि जहन्नम के दरकात हैं. दरकात, दराजात, दरजा, दर्जा मीन्स व्हाट? दर्जा मीन्स ऊपर. ऊपर जन्नत के दराजात हैं, नीचे से ऊपर, और जहन्नम के दरकात हैं, ऊपर से नीचे. तो जन्नत में जो सबसे आला दर्जा होता है, that's for the best, and जहन्नम का जो सबसे निचला और नीचा दर्जा दरका होता है, वो मुनाफिकुन के लिए, for the worst, the lowest place. ये और जहन्नम, बाज उलमा के मुताबिक जहन्नम ये जो दरकात है ना, जो सबसे आला दरका है, मीनिंग जिसमें अजाब बिल्कुल कम है, जितना कम हो सके. I don't mean azab kam hai as in it's not azab, it's azab, but it's the least azab. This is called Jahannam. Jahannam. Normally we think Jahannam is the name for all of it. No. Even some of the ulama, they say, like whale. They say whale is a type of the adhabul akhirah. Let's look at it this way. A hayvan, jins hai. Jins, genus. और उसमें से इंसान एक नौ है, शेर एक नौ है, गिदर एक नौ है, बिल्ली एक नौ है. Maybe बिल्ली, शेर, same one. But you get the point. ये अनवा है, किस्म है, अक़साम है एक जिन्स का. तो हम अज़ाबुल आखिरा, आखिरत का जो अज़ाब है, उसको हम जिन्स बनाते हैं, जिन्स. और इस अज़ाबुल आखिरा के मुख्तलिफ अनवा हैं. और बाज़ उलमा कहते हैं कि whale, they say whale is actually ice. Yeah, didn't think of that, did you? Ice, they say. That there's a whole azab in the akhirah where it's ice, not fire. I asked one time, Ustad Sahib was explaining this, one of our teachers, and I said, why did Allah use nar to scare the Arab? You know, we read today, was فَاتَّقُوا النَّارِ الَّتِي وَقُودُهَا النَّاسُ وَالْحِجَارَةُ وَعِدَّةُ لِلْكَافِرِينَ. Be fearful of the fire. Why not mention whale? Even the whale is mentioned in the Quran. But why not explain it as ice? And he said that one position is that because Arabia is hot, that in order to give them, takhweef, to put fear in them, using fire was more munasib. And the Quran is afsah, isn't it? It's the most eloquent. जो लोग गर्मी में वो बिल्कुल जो है ना, उनकी तबीयत खराब है because of heat. If you tell them there's a place that's all ice, they're going to be like, oh yeah, that sounds nice. You know, the ice bucket. I don't know if you do this or you dip into ice, right? It's good for your body, right? Now, if you were cold and someone said jump into that pool of ice water, you're going to say, nah, no way. But if you were hot, like when you're in Pakistan, if the water's even a little bit garam, you get upset. You want it to be cold. I don't know, maybe you guys are different. But you want it to be cold because you're so hot. I have a garam tabiyat, maybe that's just me, right? You want it cold. So that's one of the reasons. But otherwise, the adhab al-akhirah is mukhtalif, is different. And not one thing. It's not one thing. And Jahannam is the least. In fact, some ulama, from the ulama, there are some that said Jahannam is reserved for disobedient believers. That's one of the arguments or proofs that they give for the iman of Janab Abu Talib. You know this mukhtalaf fihi, isn't it? The beloved uncle of the Prophet ﷺ, Abu Talib, who supported him, loved him, raised him, cherished him, defended him from beginning till end. Intiha ki jo ikhlas hoti hai na, Abu Talib. But there's obviously ikhtilaf whether he died upon iman or not. One of the proofs for the iman of Janab Abu Talib is this hadith in Bukhari, where it's mentioned that Abu Talib will be in Jahannam. And some of the ulama say, but Jahannam is not for kuffar, that it is for disobedient believers. That's a mukhtalaf fihi. There can be a response to that. Yeah? This is not a masla that we're going to fix. There's two opinions that are there, and you pick whichever one you want. Yeah? On that one, or you do as many of the ulama did, which is tawaqquf. Quiet on the masala. Just tawaqquf on the masala. I don't know. But I hope that he is from the people of Iman. Of course, why wouldn't I want that for the Prophet ﷺ? And I just say that I'm not giving you my own opinion on this, by the way. So just in case somebody thinks that my opinion is tawaqquf or my opinion is anything, I didn't give you my opinion on it, what I personally believe on it. I'm giving you the position on it. The ulama have three positions on it. One position is of Iman, one position is of Adam Iman, and one position is tawaqquf. Three positions. All from Ahl Sunnati wal Jama'ah. Nobody becomes Shia or Nasbi because of these positions. Yeah? Tayyib. So Rasulullah ﷺ said that Jannah is closer to any one of you than the shoelace. Why did I say this so interesting? Because Jahannam, the hadith is, the punishment of Jahannam is what? That a person will be made to wear sandals of fire. Sandals. So again, it's a sandal. But what's interesting is that when you think about a shoelace is not something that's immediately in front of you, but it's something that is always with you. And that's interesting as a metaphor. I'm not saying that's what the Prophet meant. That's something that I took from it, which is that Jannah and Jahannam are not before you. You're carrying about your life, but they're stuck to you. You can't get away from them. Meaning whatever act you're doing is either an act of Jannah or an act of Jahannam, of the fire. Whatever you're doing. If you're sat in the masjid now, it's an act of Jannah, inshaAllah. If you're doing something else, it's an act of the fire. So even though you don't put it in the forefront of your mind, the same way you don't think about your shoelaces, but they're always there and they're always tied to you. They're always going to pull you in one direction or the other. So that's an interesting hadith. Now here, one of the commentators says something really interesting. He said, "At-ta'atu musilatun ila al-jannah." What takes you to Jannah is obedience. Al-muhib lil-mahbub muti', the Arabs say. That the lover for the beloved is obedient. Obedience, that's love. Real love is obedience. So ta'a. وَأَنَّ الْمَعْصِيَةَ تُؤَدِّي إِلَى النَّارِ. And sin will lead one to the fire. It's as simple as that. If you don't know which way your laces are pulling you, if it's in ta'ah, then the result is Jannah. This is from Allah's Ada Karima. And if it's in Ma'asiyah, then it is to the fire. And he says, مُخَالِفَةُ الْهَوَى طَرِيقٌ إِلَى الْجَنَّةِ. And opposing the desire, the nafs. Opposing that is the way to Jannah. وموافقة الهوى في المعاصي يفضي إلى النار. And muwafaqa, corresponding, let's say, maybe that's a good translation, corresponding to the hawa, to the desire in disobedience, will lead inevitably to the fire. وَلَيْسَ بَيْنَ الْإِنسَانِ وَالْجَنَّةِ وَلَيْسَ بَيْنَ الْإِنسَانِ وَالْجَنَّةِ وَالنَّارِ إِلَّا أَن يَمُوتَ عَلَى فِعْلٍ مَا يُسْتَوْجِبَ أَحَدُهُمَا. And he says, it is not between insan and the fire, and Jannah and the fire, except that a person dies upon an act that will necessitate one of the other. And this is why there's another hadith, isn't there? A very easy one, you can learn it, memorize it very quickly right now. Where Rasulullah ﷺ said, إِنَّمَا الْأَعْمَالُ بِالْخَوَاتِيمِ. The famous one was, إِنَّمَا الْأَعْمَالُ بِالنِّيَّاتِ. Actions are only by intentions. Amal ka darumadar niyat par hota hai, right? This is innama, which means only. Innama, only. Al-a'mal, acts. You can say here, all acts. Bil khawatim, be with, or related to al-khawatim, endings. Your final act is the one that counts. The final one. And there's a hadith where the Prophet ﷺ said, a man will do the a'mal. This is scary. May Allah Ta'ala protect us. कि एक आदमी होगा वो अपनी पूरी जिंदगी इबादत में, until he is one zira'a from Jannah, and he will do the act of the people of Nar, and he will enter the fire. And likewise, there's a man that spent his life in ma'siyah until he was one zira'a, one forearm away from Nar, and he did the act of the people of Jannah, and he entered into Jannah. Hashar ka hoga malum ke jeeta kaun aur hara kaun. Really, this is why you never know. You remember Amir al-Mu'mineen, Sayyidina Umar bin al-Khattab radiyallahu anhu warda, he would say, if on Yawm al-Qiyamah Allah Ta'ala was to say, everybody is going to Jannah and one person is going to hell, my fear of Allah is such that I would believe that that one person is me. And if Allah Ta'ala was to say everybody is going to Jahannam and one person is going to Jannah, my hope in Allah's mercy is such that I would believe that person is me. Bayn al-khawfi wal-raja. Al-imanu when? Al-imanu bayn al-khawfi wal-raja. Faith is between hope and fear. Hope and fear. Between that. Meaning that you are always introspective of yourself and questioning yourself. And it's a good sign to question one's own intentions. But then even that's a problem. You're like, I question my intentions, therefore I must be very sincere. And then that now is another parda for your heart, isn't it? So, but ultimately really it's about questioning and doubting yourself. There's never an opportunity. I had a friend, he used to say once, he used to say, even your humility is arrogance, he used to say. Even your humility is arrogance, because God knows why you're being humble. The nafs is subtle, very subtle. And the nafs is like a, you know, like a puppeteer. You know, the puppets pulls the strings. That's the nafs. And the nafs is very patient, and the nafs is very subtle. People think shaitan is the problem. Shaitan is the problem. The nafs is the real. You can say, Bismillah, A'udhu Billah, Allahu Akbar, and shaitan will do firar. He'll run. What are you going to do about the nafs? The nafs is stuck to you. And the nafs is very cheeky, and the nafs is very. This is why Sheikh Sa'id Ramadan Bhuti, rahmatullah alayh, he has a commentary on the hikam. I don't know if you've seen it. And he taught the hikam for many years. You can actually watch his videos on YouTube. And he said something once amazing. He said that one of the ways of treating the nafs, and I feel very, embarrassed saying this, because this is ilm without amal, knowledge without practice. But he said something interesting. He said that if you're presented between two things that are both halal, both jaiz, then take the one that you don't want to. Take the one, just in case. You know, they're both halal, but just in case. And this is why, now there's a debate. I don't know, I don't have the answer. I don't have the ruhaniyat or the spiritual prowess to have the answer to this. But it is definitely a question, which is, I'll give you a little story on this. There's a famous book called Ash-Shaqa'iq al-Nu'maniyya fi Ulama al-Dawla al-Uthmaniyya. One of my favorite books. It's one of those books that if I was stranded on an island and I had to pick one or two books, that would definitely be in the top three. It's written by a great Imam called Al-Imam Ahmad Tashkiprizadeh. He was a Turkish Imam. I say Turkish, remember this is before the satanic nation states. I say satanic because I don't believe that we should be divided into nations in this way. We're an ummah. Ahmad Tashkiprizadeh, he's buried in Fatih, Istanbul. Come from a lineage of great scholars, Imams. He was a great alim, great mutakallim of ilm al-kalam, falsafa Islamiyya, great faqih, usuli, mashallah. And he was also a great mu'arrikh, historian. And he had, his books anyway, I can talk about him for a long time. And I'm a huge fan of Ahmad Tashkiprizadeh. He wrote this book, Ash-Shaqa'iq al-Nu'maniyya, about the Ottoman scholars, the ulama up until his time. Remember, he was very early. He was very early. So he's got biographies of everybody, even including people like Yunus Emre. Some of you may have seen the Yunus Emre series about the life of Yunus Emre, etc. He's got about him, about Tabtuk Emre, his sheikh, all the way up until his time, all the great, not just awliya, but ulama. And he talks about, one of my favorites from the Ottoman scholars is Ashraf Ulu. If you go on to, I have a blog, which I haven't blogged on for a couple of years actually, but it's called reflectislam.blog. Reflectislam.blog. That's not a plug-in, I'm just genuinely giving you this wasiyat. Reflectislam.blog. It's so poor that you have to type that entire thing in for it to come up, because I've not done anything to make it come up in Google. But it's got some of my poems that I've translated, some basic texts and Aqeedah I've translated, and a lot of Turkish poetry that I've translated, Ottoman Turkish. And I put a little very short biography on there about Ashraf Ulu. Hazrat Ashraf Ulu. Great Qadri. He was a great Qadri. Yeah. He was originally a murid of Haji Bayram Veli. For those of you that don't know, if you also, I won't tell you, but I've got a little mini sort of documentary on Haji Bayram Veli when I'm at his Mazar Sharif and I'm talking about him. You can find that somewhere on the wild web. The wild web, right? It's just a fascination of mine. It's something that I prefer. Sorry? Ankara, yes, that's it, right? He's like the Data Sab in Anatolia. You know how Data Sab is for people of Pakistan? He's like, it doesn't matter what you are, what tariqah you are, whatever. He's just a shakhsiyat that everybody sort of loves and respects and honors. You can say he's like the patron saint of Pakistan. Would that be safe to say? The patron saint of Pakistan is Data Sab, Ali al-Hijwairi, rahimahullah. Hakadha Haji Bayram Veli. He's like that. Yeah, everyone loves him, everybody visits him, etc. He was a great sheikh. And he, I could talk about this for a long time, yeah? This is, I love this. But I'll make this very mukhtasar. I'll try to finish this in about 5-6 minutes, right? About Ashraf Ulu. Just to give you context to who Ashraf Ulu was. And the reason I'm telling you about Ashraf Ulu is because I'm telling you about the nuance of the nafs. So remind me to get there in case I forget and lose my way. Haji Bayram Veli was a great sheikh. In the time of Sultan Murad. Sultan Murad was the father of Fatih Sultan Mehmed. Fatih Sultan Mehmed is the one about whom Rasulullah ﷺ had already told before, لَتُفْتَحَنَّ الْقُسْطَنْطَنِيَّةِ Constantinople will surely be conquered. فَنِعْمَ الْأَمِيرُ أَمِيرُهَا One excellent leader will be its leader. وَنِعْمَ الْجَيْشِ ذَلِكَ الْجَيْشِ What an amazing army will be the army. And I could take you to the Conquest Wall. Maybe you've been. There's a lovely museum there. Next time you go, let me know before you go, and I'll tell you how to get to the Panorama Museum. Take you to some of the mazarat of the Shuhada that are buried there in the Shaheed Lake. They call the graveyard Shaheed Lake. That was actually the battlefield where it all took place. Now, we need to do a group to Istanbul from. Yeah, that's what we need to do. Put it into fix it into. There's this other sub. Put it into my my timetable. He's taking notes, yes. And no, he's not. He's writing a message. So, in any case, Haji Bayram Veli becomes very popular. So people start saying to Sultan Murad, who at this time is in Edirne. Remember, Constantinople has not yet been conquered. But the Muslims have conquered Bursa, the south, and around into Edirne, which is the north of and beyond into the Balkans. So they've sort of circulated around it. And all Murad wanted to do was take Constantinople. They wanted to be maghfurun lahu. The Prophet promised forgiveness for all of those people. Ni'mal Amir, who wouldn't want that? He really tried. But he heard about this Haji Bayram Wali, and they were like, oh, this Sheikh, we don't know who he is, he's becoming very popular. Mata masla banija. So he invited him to Adarna. When Haji Bayram Wali came, he fell in love with him. He's like, oh, this is an actual Sheikh, Kamil Sheikh. This is a man of Basira. So he said to Haji Bayram Wali, he said, tell me, am I going to conquer Constantinople? Haji Bayram Wali says to him, no, not you, but the baby, and Muhammad was in a cradle. He said, he's going to take it. And this student of mine, he was a young disciple of Haji Bayram Wali. His name was Akshamsuddin. Pir Akshamsuddin. And he's going to be with him. And Pir Akshamsuddin was the Pir of Fatih Sultan Mehmed. Now, when I say Pir, technically nobody would take bay'ah from him. Fatih Sultan Mehmed. He tried many times to take bay'ah, and I'll mention that in a minute. Mashaykh wouldn't take bay'ah from him. They should say to him, go back. Your job is to be Imam Adil. The Prophet promised 7 people will be under the shade of Allah's throne on the day that there will be no shade save His shade. One of those people is an Imamul Adil, an upright Imam. As long as that Sultan was just, everything else is overlooked. Everything else is overlooked. Yeah. So they would say to him, no. We know you want to be a Darwish, but you go back and become a Sultan. So Ashraf Ulu, who's Ashraf Ulu? Ashraf Ulu was a murid, they call him Damat. He was a murid of Haji Bayram Wali. He graduated from the great madrasa, and I visited it in Iznik. That's a great place to go. It was the madrasa the building of the madrasa was by Orhan Ghazi, the son of Osman Ghazi. Yeah? And Orhan Ghazi appointed as the first Mudarris Dawood al-Kaysari. And Dawood al-Kaysari, who's buried not far, in a little roundabout, no one knows. Haji Dawood al-Kaysari was a student of Al-Kashani. And Al-Kashani was a student of Sadruddin al-Kunawi, buried in Konya, who was the Khalifa and adopted son of Al-Shaykh al-Akbar, Muhyiddin wal-Millah ibn Arabi, Quddisa Sirru. And that's why the Ottomans are Akbarian in their philosophy, right? Ala kullin, and that's a whole different story. So Ashraf Ulu, he's a graduate of the madrasa in Iznik. He is a fakhr of Tullab, an amazing student. His father, before he got to the madrasa, had made him memorize all the books. He wanted to be, he wanted tasawwuf. He became murid. And even Haji Bayram Wali loved him so much that he married his daughter, Khairun Nisa, after him. Khairun Nisa. 12 years he remained in the khidmah of the Sheikh, and he was Imam in the Dargah. And the Sheikh did his tarbiyat. Then he sent him back to Iznik, and he said, Jaun, do tabligh. He went there, he stayed for a little while. He still didn't feel like he had enough. So he went back to Haji Bayram Wali. Look who I'm talking about, yeah? He went back to Haji Bayram Wali and he said, Huzur, is this all I'm going to get? I'm not satisfied. Haji Bayram Wali said to him that whatever I could have given you, I've given you. Whatever I could have given you, I've given you. And it's like when Pir Melli Shah Sahab went to Pir Sial, Shamsul Arifin, and Pir Sial said that, Haidar Ali Shah from Jarpur Sharif, that he's taken the Makkan, all I have is lassi. Pir Melli Shah said, I'll take the lassi, right? And but anyway, so he says to him, you have to go to Aleppo, and there's a sheikh, who's a Husseini Qadri sheikh, from the awlad of Ghawth al-Wara, Sayyidina Sheikh Abdul Qadir al-Jilani. He went, and that sheikh put him into 140-day chillah. Chillah, you know when people get scared of these terms. A chillah is basically seclusion. Go for 40 days and be with your Lord. No dunya. Yeah? They get it for 40 layla, when Allah Ta'ala took Musa for 40 nights. He put him in 140-day chillah, and that was it. Then he went back to Iznik. He left everything. Now this is where I said about the nuance. I'm going to come back to the nuance now. Where he left his teaching. He left the public sector in that sense. And he focused on tasawwuf. And Allah Ta'ala sent, I think it was 20,000, I can't remember the exact number. You could look at the little biography. Just download the PDF of the blog. I can't remember what it was, 20, 25 something. 1,000 murideen and he became huge. And he has his own story. I didn't tell you the story of Ashraf Olu. Read it in the biography, right? And like he's got his own story. The point I want to mention is Tashkir Pirzadeh laments. And he says, Itna bara alim deen si. And he just left it all. And he became with the rush. Had the calendars not, these are his words, I'm not making this up. He goes, had the calendars not hijacked him, kidnapped him, we would have forgotten the names of the ulama in the past. He was that big of a scholar. That Ashraf Olu literally means Ibn al-Ashraf, yeah, the son of Ashraf. Ashraf Olu, like Ashraf Zadeh. In fact, that's one of his names, Ashraf Zadeh. Same thing, Ashraf Olu, Turkish. Ashraf Zadeh is Persian, but the Ottomans used it. That had he continued in ilm, sat down with books, taught students, madrasa, darulum life, had he continued that, we would have forgotten the names of the past. He would have been the biggest name in our history. But he left it all. He just didn't want anything to do with it anymore. Now that is a conundrum. That's a huge moral conundrum. Huge one. Why? Because both are khair. Both are khair. How do you choose between the two? You'll get Bulle Shah who say, Chal bulle aute chaliye jithe sare anne, na sadi pehchan hove, na san koi manne. You've got that as well. And then you've got like, Allama Amjad Ali, the author of Bahari Shariat. Allama Amjad, Naam, Azmi, alayhi rahmatullah. He said, he said, if you want to be a malamati with those Sufis who used to outwardly do things that were a bit odd, so that people didn't think that they were special. Nothing haram, they're not allowed to do that. But they would just, the people think, oh, chalo, he's not really, they would do that, malamatis. So, Allama Amjad Sahib says, he goes, if you want to be a malamati in our door, be a Maulvi. He goes, because you get to do khair and people still won't like you. So, that was just a funny joke, right? But, in any case, the point is that's a conundrum for a lot of people, where they think to themselves, I remember I said to Shaykh Abdul Hakim, I was a Jamia student and we were dropping him off to the train station after one of the gateway divine masjids. And I said to him, because what if somebody fares their intention, that their intention is not always khalis for Allah Ta'ala. He goes, I thought he's going to say, don't worry, as long as you questioning your intention, you'll be fine. He said, it's better for you to be a bus driver. That was his response. It's better for you to be a bus driver. Agar nafs qabu nahi hona, there's no point presenting Allah with a gift that's filled with kire, as Pir Kalam Shah used to say. He goes, agar Malik nu dena hai, come as come, don't let there be kire in it. So maybe the Malik will forgive you for not presenting the dish, but it's going to be tawheen if you present it with kire in it, with insects in it. Yeah. So that's a conundrum, and I've never understood how they work that out. Except maybe if they have a sheikh and the sheikh tells them, for you is this and for you is that. How do they pick which one that they're going to do? But Ashraf will read the biography, and he was an absolute, and I'll tell you, just ending, Fatih Sultan Mehmed, I think I've told you this, Fatih Sultan Mehmed went to him, Ashraf Ulu, went to him like this, yeah, in the middle of the night. I didn't plan this. Yeah, I got the hood. Yeah, like this, they used to wear the hoods. Yeah, so nobody could recognize him, just to take bay'ah with him. He refused it. And he goes, "Tusu jao wapas, Imam Bano." Then he went to Abu al-Wafa. And if you come to Istanbul with me, I'll take you to his khanqah and his grave. Little gate. And Fatih Sultan Mehmed went to the khanqah. Abu al-Wafa's murids came out. He said, I want to meet the sheikh. They went in. The sheikh said, tell him to go back. He's not allowed. He came out. They said, Sheikh Abu al-Wafa, this is the Sultan. This is the king. Can't enter into a building. And they said, the sheikh said, you can't. And then he said, Allah Ta'ala allowed me to enter through the gates of Constantinople, but I can't walk through the small gate of Abu al-Wafa. Like, yeah. And then he said to the murids, why can't I come in? And they said that the sheikh said that if Fatih Sultan Mehmed, if he tastes the ladha of our majlis, he will leave his post as Sultan and he would want to be a darwish. But he has his own role that he has to play. So tell him to go back. Just tell him to go back. So even with Ashraf Ulu, Fatih Sultan Mehmed didn't go alone. He went with his Pasha, Wazir Azam, not like Prime Minister. He went with the head Wazir Mahmud Pasha, buried near the Blue Mosque. And Mahmud Pasha is also a legend. Yeah? And I could talk about him for a good while too, but I won't, right? He accepted the bay'ah of Mahmud Pasha, sent Mehmed back. So these are great awliya. Now with Ashraf, look at the great awliya, but the conundrum. So when you're reading a hadith like that and the Prophet talk about Jannah and Nar and how they're stuck to you with your laces, it's really a battle. It's a battle of the nafs. The nafs is never going to leave you. The nafs is always there. Raza nafs dushman, dam mein na aana, kaha tumne dekhe hain chandrane wale. You can't get away from the nafs. It is a part of you. It is a part of you, but it's not you. It's not you. Your consciousness is you. Your nafs is there, and the nafs is a difficult thing, and that's why Bhuti said treacherous, and that's why Sheikh Bhuti said, if you have two options that both are jaiz, pick the one that's harder on your nafs, because at least you know that there's no imkan of this being for other than Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. May Allah ta'ala give us khulus and ikhlas. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala forgive us for our bit ikhlasi, and Allah ta'ala forgive us for our mistakes. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala Allah Ta'ala grant us tawfiq to do good deeds, and then Allah Ta'ala give us tawfiq to make those good deeds for His sake and His sake alone. May Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala give us ihsan in our lives. Allah Ta'ala keep over us our mashayikh, and Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala allow us to follow them, Ya Rabbil Alameen, Ya Akram al-Akramin, Ya Arhamar Rahimin. Ya Allah, this amal of khair, of sitting and reading the hadith of your Rasul alayhi salatu wasalam, if this amal has been accepted, we pray that it is accepted. If it's been accepted, Ya Allah, we make tawassul through this act that you forgive our sins and you help our brothers and sisters around the world, Ya Rabbil Alameen, wherever they are suffering, Ya Rabbil Alameen, that you bring ease and comfort to them, Ya Rabbil Alameen. Allahumma yassir lana umurana, Ya Rabbil Alameen, waj'alna من أهل الفلاح يا رب العالمين. وصل اللهم وسلم وبارك على سيد الأولين والآخرين سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. آمين برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين. سبحان الله. سبحان الله. Well, that's an excellent proof. Allah. SubhanAllah. SubhanAllah. And those of you at home that didn't hear that, you missed out, should have been in the masjid. That's why Allah Ta'ala says in it, Inna siyama li wa ana adzi bi. Fasting is actually for me, and so I'm going to reward it. He doesn't do that for other acts, because you're right, that's the ultimate display of free will, is fasting. SubhanAllah. Jazakumullah khair. Thank you very much for that. Alright, wa sallallahu ala sayyidina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi.